Welcome to Talkline on the MetroNews Radio Network.
Do not attempt to change the station. You are surrounded.
We interrupt this program to bring you an emergency news bulletin. Repeat, this is an emergency bulletin. Keep your radio turned on.
Holy smoke.
From the studios of the West Virginia Radio Corporation and the MetroNews Radio Network, the voice of West Virginia, comes the most powerful radio show in West Virginia. This is MetroNews Talkline with Hoppy Kercheval.
Check set lineup link. Activated Telos telephone. Switch network control from Charleston to Morgantown.
Stand by. Q Hoppy. You're on.
Good morning. Welcome to Talkline on Metro News in and around the great state of West Virginia. Hoppy Kercheval with you. J.R. Falls, our producer. Matt Sunday handling the video stream. You can watch us at wvmetronews.com. Coming up this morning, we'll go live to Chicago for the latest on the video that's come out concerning the shooting of the teen there, and a police officer's been charged with murder. Also, the very latest on the Stedman Bailey story. We got word of that late last night. Stedman Bailey, former Mountaineer, now with the St. Louis Rams, and he was home in Miramar, Florida, serving a suspension from the Rams for violation of the substance abuse policy. He was shot in the head twice last night. So Mike Florio of ProFootballTalk.com will give us the very latest on that. Also coming up, I have some political news. A Democrat is getting into the race in West Virginia 11, Senate District 11. That's a sprawling district in kind of central eastern West Virginia. Greg Boso is the Republican there now, but we have an announcement this morning. We're going to have an announcement of a Democrat who is getting in that race, and we'll do that here in just a little bit. But first up this morning, the Don Blankenship jury is gone for the long holiday weekend. They'll be back Monday morning. Harvey Payton, of course, has served as our legal consultant on this case. Harvey, good morning. Why do you think it's been more than 30 hours now of deliberations? Why do you think it's taking the jury so long, and why do you think they haven't reached a verdict yet, or verdicts yet?
Oh, I think it's a combination of a lot of things, Hoppy. I think first and foremost, the manner in which the jury was selected, although we weren't privy to that, because of the high visibility of the defendant and the case, many people would have been excluded who had a lot of knowledge. And so that means a group of folks who read the papers and listen to the radio and are attuned to public events. And so that's not the group that's serving on this jury, and that's not a slam against the jurors who are serving. So you have folks who knew little or anything about the case. They have to be educated about the case. They're not professional problem solvers. And then they're confronted with just this mass of documentary evidence overlaying the testimony. And, initially they came out after just a day and a half of deliberations and said they, quote, could not agree. Then they were sent back by the judge without actually any sort of coercive instruction, and now have been out for another 4.5 days.
All right. Well, help me understand that, because it was pretty quickly they came back and said, well, we can't agree. And of course, that wasn't going to fly. But how do you go from, what does that tell you is that very quickly they want to say that they can't agree. Now that they go on for another 4 days and still can't agree, does that mean that they really can't agree? Is that what we gather from that?
Well, they haven't said that. I think initially it sounded as if there might have been strong recalcitrance on one side or the other. Maybe they took a vote or two and it came out disproportionate in one way or the other. And, they're not professional jurors. Their question is, how long do we have to deliberate? We cannot agree. That was the question. How long do we deliberate? We cannot agree. Mm-hmm. So they failed on their first attempt. The judge said, you have to go back and deliberate further. It's not been that long. And now they've taken 4 days. They haven't sent any more notes to the court expressing a deadlock. Now, they did send a note asking to have some terms defined, and they sent one note because they felt that a reporter had improperly attempted to contact one or two of the jurors. That's it. They left yesterday without coming into the courtroom. And
did that surprise you that, and everybody makes kind of a sport out of when will the jury come back and what will it say, but you would think coming up against that holiday, human nature being what it is, I thought it would be last Friday that they would have, okay, let's get this wrapped up, but they didn't.
Well, that's a thought that runs through my mind as well, but that really shortchanges the integrity of the jury.
Fair enough.
And these are 8 women and 4 men who appear to be honestly trying to do a good job. I mean, they're taking some time. If there were some shenanigans in the room or there were marked sharp disagreements, I think we would have heard something, some notes sent to the judge. They're 8 women and 4 men, just like the rest of us. They're selected from counties in central West Virginia, trying to do a good job and trying to figure it out without leaving any part of the case unresolved.
Are you surprised it's gone this long?
Oh, yeah, I am. I'm not, honestly, have not been involved in a case where, I mean, I was involved in a large case here years ago. We had 3 days of deliberations. It was a civil case, not a criminal case. Been involved in a criminal case, murder case where the deliberations went on for 2 days. But, I mean, this is, even given the volume of testimony, these folks come in at 9 o'clock. They get a break to smoke or to relax about 10:30. They go back to their room around 11 o'clock, work till noon, come back at 1:30 and don't leave until 5. So they're getting about 7 hours a day, 6.5, 7 hours a day of work. Of course, nobody works all the time. Some of that, I'm sure, is chit-chat or reacquainting after an evening off. But, let's say it's 6 hours. That's 30-plus hours of deliberations. That's a lot. That's a lot of time.
If obviously there is dispute among the jurors about conclusions on one, two, or all 3 of the charges, was there anything in the instructions to the jury, and we know there would be if the judge gave them the Allen charge, which says get back there and kind of reads them a little bit of the riot act. Was there anything in the instructions that says you have an obligation to not only review the evidence but to not be recalcitrant, that to listen to other sides and to reevaluate your position if you think, is there any sort of charge like that to them?
Mildly so, yes. In the charge there was included the general jury instructions, which you have a duty to deliberate, you have a duty to pay attention to your other jurors, you should not disregard because of pride or prejudice or obstinance anybody's position, and you should weigh those things and consider them. That's a part of the jury instructions in every case, and that was given to these folks. But again, they've never been jurors before, and they're confronted with, this is a close case. I mean, you had a segment on yesterday, late in your show, asking people, what should the verdict be, and when will we get one? And I listened to that. I was in the car, and the split is almost exclusively on the folks' outlook. When someone calls in who's had a prior relationship with the management side of coal, then, this should be a not guilty verdict. You can't go to the boardroom or and on the other side, and I see it in the courtroom where the families are sitting. I hear their commentary that, we want justice. But will it be justice if the system runs its course and the man's acquitted?
Well, it will be justice if he's acquitted for those family members, and this is hard to say, but for those family members who want justice, I'll use that with a small j, but with your observations of the trial, if they come back with acquittal, that's justice with a large J. I mean, that's how the system works, and it has not been a fix. That's what it is, whatever they do. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah, and in the courtroom, it was interesting one day about 2 weeks into the trial, in the afternoon, the family members who are always seated in the front, they came in after lunch, and they talk about justice. They talk about the 29 men who aren't here to testify.
Right.
Because to them, justice is a guilty verdict. Sure. Well, on that same day, Bill Maloney was in the courtroom. I just recognized him because he was a public figure. He's a businessman from Morgantown, and He was involved in the drilling, the 33 miners rescued. And when he left the courtroom, he spoke with a fellow who's a businessman that does some business with Massey, and it was obviously that those 2 men, looking at it from a business perspective, felt that the prosecution was that justice would be an acquittal, and a quick one. So it's how you look at it, and I suspect some of these jurors have a little bit of that. Nobody comes in as a blank slate.
Right.
It's just like judges. No judge looks at things completely in the abstract because they're human beings.
And it is, Harvey, we come back to this. It is, and you've been there every day. You're a lawyer. You're an unbiased observer. It is a close call, as we have said many times. If you're on the jury in a murder case And that can also be a close call many times. But lots of times the evidence sort of piles up and it sort of tips one way many times, or an armed robbery or whatever it is. But this is a much more, gosh, I mean, you're supposed to be objective, but still there's a level of subjectivity to it.
Well, there is there is a level of subjectivity, and you know, it's interesting. There are a large number of members of the press, the local and the state and the national press, and I've never been a reporter. I'm not now. I'm just a legal observer. But, you know, you get to see people and speak with them in the hallway, and then invariably you'll say, well, what do you think? And I say, well, you know, I'd really like to see him convicted, but, you know, that's sort of an attitude that some have that, you know, I'd like to see him convicted, but you know, is there enough here? That's a large but. It is indeed, and you know, Now,
Harvey Payton's with us, who's been our legal analyst throughout this trial. How long will the judge let them deliberate before you get to hung jury status?
Until they say they can't agree. I mean, it's in the hands of the jury right now. I would assume there reaches some point. Just the passage of time might imply a deadlock, and the judge might inquire of the jury. But, you know, appellate courts are really hesitant to interfere with the judge's discretion in handling jury deliberations. If this thing goes another 5 days, if the jury doesn't come back and say we're deadlocked and can't agree, it really isn't the position of the court to interfere with that. They are entitled to take as much time within reason as they need to. Now, if it goes another 5 days, something's going to happen. She's going to intercede, and she's going to ask these folks or tell them, look, are you deadlocked?
She can't inquire. Can she inquire?
Well, she can, but she's not going to. I mean, that would be inappropriate.
Okay. Now, the defense, each time that there's a break, the defense, I think they've made 3 now, motions for mistrial saying the jury can't reach a decision. Explain to me, Lee, that's a matter of course, isn't it? And the judge is not going to grant that, at least not at this stage, correct?
Not at this stage. And actually, they made more than that. Every time they reconvene, either Mr. Taylor or one of his other lawyers moves for a mistrial saying it's been too long, because, you know, obviously at some point it denies the defendant of due process.
Right.
If it becomes coercive, if you keep people locked in a room against their will and tell them you have to decide this, then you're coercing them to make some decision to gain their freedom. We haven't reached that point because, as I say, after that Thursday, the jury...
Yeah, they've been deliberating.
They've been deliberating.
They haven't been sending back notes saying we can't get there.
Right.
And then you keep sending them back. Then there might be more support for that motion, but
sure.
you would presume, you have to presume they are deliberating since they haven't sent any message back, right?
Right.
Okay.
And appellate courts really pay attention to jury deliberations and jury verdicts. I mean, that is the linchpin of the entire system. If this jury comes back, say, Monday or Tuesday of next week, and they have, say, a split verdict where they hang on one count, convict on one, acquit on the other, you know, an appellate court, unless there's some underlying error in the way the trial was conducted, just those jury deliberations are not going to be sufficient.
I got it. Harvey Payton, we got to leave it there. Appreciate it. Have a good holiday weekend. We'll resume with you next week, okay?
I'll be down in Vegas watching Hugs take on the opposition.
All right, very good. Thanks, Harvey. Enjoy your holiday.
Hunger, injustice, poverty. We see it, but what can we really do? Where is the hope? The hope is in you, and Catholic Charities West Virginia can help you extend hope, grace, and mercy to the most vulnerable in our communities. They're calling all people of goodwill to serve our brothers and sisters mired in poverty, burdened with disease and injustice. Join with Catholic Charities West Virginia and change a world. Visit CatholicCharitiesWV.org because the hope is in you.
Hello?
Susan, I need your help.
Sure, what's up?
I need a contractor, and I don't know how to find a good one.
Oh, that's easy. Go to the Home Builders Association of West Virginia. They have a list of all kinds of contractors.
How do I know if they're good? I don't want just anybody.
Well, do your homework. Are they licensed and insured? Check their references and look at what they've done. Do people like them? And most of all, be sure to get a clear written contract.
Okay, where do I find this association?
Go to hbawv.org.
BAWV.org.
That's it.
Your dreams built by the best. Contact the Home Builders Association of West Virginia for a list of professionals in your area. Go to hbawv.org today. This message brought to you by our marketing partners: Lowe's of North Central West Virginia, Brick Street, 84 Lumber, Federal Home Loan Bank of Pittsburgh, ProBuild, SJ Needhawk, Valcon, Wincor, and West Virginia Housing Development Fund. The Home Builders Association of West Virginia. Go to hbawv.org today.
The Metro News channel at WVMetroNews.com brings you round 2 of the NCAA Division II playoffs. Shepherd hosts IUP this Saturday at 12 noon.
Let's go, boys!
Tune in as Travis Jones and Carl Lee bring you the sights and sounds of championship football. Don't miss a minute of the action with the live video stream starting Saturday at noon.
That's it!
Only on the Metro News channel at WVMetroNews.com.
There it is! There it is! Go!
You're listening to Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Gosh, cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Because you look so fine that I really want to make you mine.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. Former Mountaineer standout wide receiver, now Rams wide receiver, Miramar, Florida native Stedman Bailey in a hospital in Miami after being shot in the head. Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, NBC Sports following the story. Mike, good morning. What happened?
Well, you know, the police reports out he was in a car with another adult and a couple of juveniles, and somebody started opening fire. They don't know who it is. The suspect's at large. Stedman was struck twice in the head and critical but stable condition. Surgery was set for this morning, and just a shocker. And people are like, well, why was he in Miami during the week? Shouldn't he be with the team? He's currently on a 4-game suspension for violating the league's substance abuse policy. That's why he wasn't with the team.
I saw one report, Mike, that the other individual who was in the car, the other adult, was his cousin who was also gravely injured. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that, and I haven't seen anything more official about the cousin, but it sounded like the cousin was hurt worse. Although, you know, initially the stuff that was making the rounds on Twitter last night suggested it was very serious for Stedman, and it's already very serious. But I mean, there were people suggesting that he had already passed away, and the Rams' understanding is, for now, it's not a life-threatening condition, but it is obviously a serious situation.
Yeah, the Rams statement said they actually spoke with him before surgery, I believe. Yeah,
well, and you know, he's got a lot to get through before he's completely out of the woods on this, and very fortunate at this point. Although, I mean, considering what the alternative could have been, but a tragedy for him. and for his cousin and for anybody who was in that car witnessing that kind of an incident.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com and NBC Sports. Let's go back to the suspension. What do we know about the suspension of which I think came out a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, here's what happens. And he had a suspension last year under the PED policy, and that's a one-strike. There's a long list of banned substances that are considered to be performance enhancers, and if you test positive one time, you get a 4-game suspension. Under the substance abuse policy, and that's where this suspension came from, you've got to violate it multiple times, and typically for NFL players, it's a marijuana situation. And the reality is a lot of guys in the NFL smoke marijuana. Now, unless you're in the substance abuse program, you only get tested once per year. Once you start testing positive, that's when the challenge becomes to choose football over marijuana, because you get tested regularly, and if you keep failing, you eventually do get suspended. So he was at a crossroads with his career from the standpoint of staying clean, and a lot of players go through that, and sometimes that suspension is the thing that turns a guy around, and sometimes the 4-game suspension is just the first of what becomes eventually a 1-year banishment.
Mm-hmm. Prior to the injury last night, and certainly everybody hopes for a full recovery, we'll have to see how that plays out. Prior to his injury, what do you think his future was going to be or is going to be with the Rams or in the NFL?
It was hard to tell. I mean, he really hadn't lived up to the expectation. And I recall hearing that when the Rams came to town to work out Tavon Austin a few years ago, Stedman was there as well, and the quarterback they brought with them was blown away by Stedman and the way he ran his routes and the way he caught the ball. And it just hasn't translated yet. And one of the reasons it possibly hasn't translated is the Rams have had not very good quarterback play over the last few years. And sometimes it takes a confident quarterback to get the most out of a receiver. And we've just seen Tavon finally start to come on this year. So I still think that the jury was out on how good of a player Stedman was going to be at the NFL level. And obviously now this complicates it. And like you said, we hope he has a full recovery, and we hope he's able to return to the field as soon as possible.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, NBC Sports. Mike, thanks for coming on short notice. We appreciate it and hope you have a good and blessed Thanksgiving. Thank you very much.
All right, you too, buddy.
All right, man. Mike Florio on the latest on Stedman Bailey. The Marion County Historical Society will open their doors for the Holiday Historic Homes Tour on the 28th of this month. Many of the homes will be decorated for the holidays and have live music and refreshments. Homes on the tour include the former Marion County Sheriff's home and others dating back to the 1840s. For more on the holiday visit, go to WV.com. That's the website. Go to WV.com or call 800-225-5982. 800-225-5982 to learn more about the Marion County Historical Society and their Holiday Historic Homes Tour that starts the 28th of this month. When we come back, the shooting of an individual in Chicago, it actually happened in 2014, but the video has been released, and the video is pretty damning. And now the police officer has been charged with murder. We'll go live to Chicago and Jeff Manasso. Also coming up, the deer season is off to an incredibly fast start for the hunters in West Virginia. We'll talk to Chris Ryan of the Division of Natural Resources. Also coming up in the 11 o'clock hour, Jeff Jenkins and Shauna Johnson have been covering the blanket chip trial every day. They've talked with family members, and Jeff and Shauna will be with us at 11:06 to hear what some of the to get their observations. Also hear what some of the family members and relatives of victims of UBB who've been at that trial almost nonstop, what they're saying about the trial. This is Talkline on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia. 11:30, let's get a news update. Check in with the Metro News Radio Network and find out what's happening statewide this hour, all across the great state of West Virginia.
West Virginia Metro News, I'm Shauna Johnson. A Kanawha County man is dealing with multiple gunshot wounds after being shot by a Nitro City police officer in the early morning hours today. Kanawha County Sheriff's Department spokesperson Sergeant Brian Humphrey says the officer started shooting when 28-year-old Mickey Davis allegedly tried to run over him during a traffic stop.
Police officer fired into the vehicle several times. The car came to a stop a short distance later. The driver was hit several times. He is now at Charleston General, being treated for some injuries, and he's in their ICU unit. The female passenger, was in the car also. She was not injured.
Humphrey says the Nitro officer feared for his life. Arraignment comes next week for the Raleigh County doctor who's been indicted on 21 federal drug counts, all tied to the alleged illegal distribution of prescription pain medications like oxycodone. Dr. Jose Jorge Abud Gordino, whose medical office is in Beckley, is being held in the Southern Regional Jail where he's been since his November 12th arrest. A native of Jamaica faces up to 20 years in prison when he's sentenced for wire fraud tied to a series of U.S. phone scams. 52-year-old Davil Godfrey Young from Montego Bay entered a guilty plea Tuesday in Clarksburg federal court. And a member of Charleston City Council says West Virginia should be offering support to refugees from war zones like Syria. Mary Beth Hoover, part of a Charleston rally for refugees on Tuesday. You're listening to Metro News for 30 years of Voice of West Virginia.
When you drive impaired in West Virginia, you break the law and endanger the lives of others. Law enforcement across the state is committed to keeping impaired drivers off the road. If you drive impaired, be prepared to pay the price. There are consequences. It's simple, West Virginia. Drive sober or get pulled over.
This message is brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program, the West Virginia Division of Motor Vehicles, and the West Virginia Department of Transportation.
AARP is your ally for real possibilities in West Virginia, a strong advocate, trusted resource, and partner in your pursuit of a life reimagined. At AARP, we're listening to members and potential members in every community across the state. Whether fighting for home energy affordability, enhancing financial security, supporting family caregivers, strengthening consumer protections, or helping you protect your hard-earned money, AARP is working every day for you. For more information, find us on Facebook at AARP West Virginia or visit us online at aarp.org/WV.
Thanksgiving Day openings are planned at some retail stores in West Virginia ahead of Black Friday. Bridget Lambert, the president of the West Virginia Retailers Association, says the state of the Mountain State's economy will likely be reflected in overall holiday shopping numbers.
It'll be interesting to see how this whole season unfolds nationally as well as in West Virginia with the economic changes we're seeing.
Lambert says online shopping continues to change the Black Friday weekend dynamics. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Shauna Johnson.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank member, FDIC. Email, Hoppy, now the real shadow jury starts in the Blankenship case. These jurors will be subjected to Thanksgiving opinions by countless numbers of relatives and friends, and that may change their opinion of the case. Jurors are obviously instructed not to talk about the case and not to look at media accounts, but it's tough. You're out there and you're right. You're at the Thanksgiving dinner and Uncle Bob is there. And Uncle Bob knows he's not supposed to say anything, but he's going to say, I know I'm not supposed to say anything, but I'll tell you what I think. So, but somebody emailed and said, why don't you sequester the jury? Well, two reasons. One is sequestering the jury is very expensive. You have to sequester them for 2 months. Also, it's a hardship on the jurors. I mean, you're asking people to do a public service and you got to stay locked up in a hotel room for 2 months. That's a lot to ask people. So, in Chicago, protesters generally were restrained last night after the release of that dash cam video showing the white Chicago police officer killing a black teenager. There were a couple of arrests, but that video is pretty startling. Jeff Manasso, Fox News Radio in Chicago. Jeff, good morning. Thanks for joining us. What is the latest, sir?
Well, the latest is that we expect more protests today outside City Hall. You mentioned the protests last night. About 300 people gathered downtown and marched south, at one point confronting police. There were a few arrests last night, but generally peaceful. Protesters heeding the advice from city officials to remain calm, and so they were. Generally, it's not like we didn't see anything like we saw in Ferguson or in Baltimore or other places. I mean, this is a different case where these people have their charges. They got the murder charges they were seeking, and when you see this video, it's pretty damning stuff. And so this officer is now charged. His attorney says, look, my client, this video doesn't tell the whole story. It doesn't tell you that my client feared for his life, and that this case needs to be played out in court, not in social media. We also expect more protests on Friday here. as demonstrators vow to shut down shopping along the famed Michigan Avenue during Black Friday.
Jeff, the reality is it's going to play out in the court and in social media. I mean, that's where these things get played out these days. And if you look at the video, you're right. I mean, Van Dyke, who's being held without a bail until his next court appearance, that I thought what was interesting, too, is that other officers were on the scene earlier, and they were sort of following McDonald, who had been breaking into things, and also I think he had PCP in his system. They wouldn't know that till later. And then later he had a small knife. But then this other vehicle pulls up, and Van Dyke and another officer get out, and pretty quickly fire shots. And in Van Dyke's case, 16 shots, and was getting ready to reload when the other officer said, "Hold your fire." So it's pretty damaging stuff.
It's going to be interesting to see how Van Dyke's lawyers play out the timeline. We know, based on the state report, that neighbors called in to police saying somebody was burglarizing vehicles. Right. That person turned out to be Laquan McDonald, and police zeroed in on him. We know, based on the report, that Laquan McDonald took his knife and stabbed a tire on a police cruiser, punctured a tire. And then basically what we see in that 30 seconds of the almost 6-second clip from the dash cam, pretty brief. He was walking very briskly down a street, not towards an officer, but kind of away. He had a knife in his hand, and the officer came and shot. So, but he fell right away, and that's when you can kind of see the puffs of smoke, or the cloud, the dust clouds, which appear to be bullets hitting the ground. As the officer apparently unloaded 16 rounds into this individual. I mean, when officers are trained, when they're trained to shoot, they're trained to neutralize their target. But he fell right away, and you can see in this clip other officers putting their guns down. And to me, it's going to be a tough case to win. But his lawyer contends that they are going to be successful. And meantime, you've got a lot of angry people within the black community within this rift that we're seeing, not just here in Chicago, but Ferguson. It's playing out all over the country, and including Minneapolis now.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we'll watch it. Jeff Manasso, Fox News Radio in Chicago. Jeff, thank you very much.
You bet.
All right, good to speak with you. When we come back, deer season has been incredibly productive for the hunters in West Virginia. Why? What's going on? We'll find out next.
There's nothing like that moment when you get home in the evening, standing outside, seeing your family safe and warm, and you say a little prayer of thanks for all that you have been given. The Friends of Coal would like to take a moment to offer our thanks. Thanks to the people of West Virginia who have stood with our coal mining families in times of joy, in times of pain. Thanks to our coal miners who keep the lights of home burning bright. Thanks to the men and women, mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers who wear our nation's uniform and will spend this holiday season far from home. Thanks to our founding fathers who gave us this wonderful nation in which we live. And above all, thanks to our Creator who gives us the precious gift of life and the wonder that it holds. A message from the Friends of Coal.
Coal is West Virginia.
A study from England shows that men spend more time each day looking at themselves than women. Well, believe that study or not, the point is we all want to look our best all the time. Well, the same holds true for businesses. We judge businesses, in fact, by their look. At Pikewood Creative, we produce videos and commercials that make businesses look their very best. And you know what? It improves their business. They get more customers and clients. If you'd like your business to look better, then check us out at pikewoodcreative.com.
This is Talkline on MetroNews. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Hunters, if you've got game, there's 3 ways to check it in. By phone, 844-WV-CHECK. Online, log on to WVHunt.com. In person, stop by a hunting or fishing license agent. You'll need to know your permanent DNR ID number when you check your game. You'll be given a 13-digit confirmation number you must write on your field tags. That's simple. If you need an ID number, visit WVHunt.com, WVHunt.com. And speaking of which, I think that this new system has allowed for the DNR to have a really good recording of the kills so far in this gun season. So let's get the latest on that and talk to Chris Ryan. Chris Ryan is Supervisor of Game Management for DNR and Jointers this morning. Chris, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Hoppy. How are you?
Great. Thanks for coming on. So 20,000 bucks killed on the first day, and last year I think it was like 13,000. Are those numbers right?
They are right. They are correct.
What happened here?
Well, basically, last year we had a lot of food in the woods, which is acorns, and so that made the deer a little bit harder to kill. And we had, if you remember back, it was real windy and bad weather last year, but this year we've had tremendous weather. You know, it's been absolutely gorgeous across the state the last 3 days, and so that makes the deer, and makes it easier on the deer and the hunters.
Yeah, but it just sounds like a huge number. I mean, is that the biggest opening day ever?
No, it's not. No? It's not the biggest opening day ever.
Oh, really? Okay.
Right.
It still sounds like a big number to me. But.
Right, and I just ran the report there a couple minutes ago, and right as of 3 minutes ago, we had 35,647 bucks that were checked in 2.5 days so far. So that's nearly the whole total from last year.
Really?
Yes.
Really? So far, what is today? So far, 35,000 plus have been killed bucks, and that's almost as many as all of last year during the 2-week season.
Right. Last year we had 37,427. And that was a little bit of a down year, mainly because of the food conditions. Like I said, there was just so many acorns in the woods last year. It made the deer a little bit harder to kill for the hunters. But this year, there's a little bit of lack of acorns and the tremendous weather. A combination of those factors are really the two that drive that harvest.
Okay, so you're talking 35,000. That's bucks only, but you can take doe, too. Right. What about doe? You got the number on doe?
Doe, right now we had 7,272, so it was 7272.
So hunters are having great success so far.
They're having a lot of success so far. And, you look at any of the social media or talk to people or whatever, and there's some really big bucks being harvested. So
really?
I mean, what have you
seen anecdotally? I mean, what have you seen anecdotally out there for antler size?
Well, I mean, Chris Lawrence keeps sending me pictures of these big bucks that other people kill. I haven't seen one that he's killed yet.
Well, it's because he says, Lawrence always says he spends all his time hauling his kids. Like his kid goes out and kills one, he has to haul that out. Then another kid kills one, has to haul that out. He claims he never gets to shoot one. That's what he claims. So,
well, that's what he claims. But there's been a lot of, if you just look there, a lot of big 8 points and 10 points and even some non-typical bucks. And they're killed all around the state, too. You look there and they're Putnam County and up through Tyler County or over to Wetzel County or Lewis County. They're really being killed around the state in great numbers.
So there really is a combination of factors contributing to that a lot of them survived last year, right?
It does. With a lot of those ones that basically carried over from last year would obviously make them a year older. Typically within the harvest in West Virginia, we run about like a 27-28% of the harvest as yearling bucks, which is, they'd be a year and a half old right now. So that is what it is normally. So you're normally looking at a 2-year-old is the more common deer that's harvested in West Virginia. And if they carried over from last year, they're at least 3.5, if not 4.5.
Yeah. Chris Ryan's with us, with the DNR, Supervisor of Game Management. So how is this new check-in system working, specifically where everybody has to have a DNR ID number? How's that working?
It's working out tremendously. We've getting really, really good positive feedback on it. Hunters like to be able to use their cell phone from camp, or they're sitting on their smartphone over top of the animal, and they check the animal in, and it's already checked in before they've even touched the animal. So we've getting a lot of really good positive feedback on that. And we also, the 170 license agents around the state also check animals and sell licenses. So anybody that was unfamiliar with the phone or the computer or whatever, they're still able to stop by an agent and see somebody face to face. The one thing is they don't have to physically bring their animal anymore. Mm-hmm. So we've tried to make it as convenient for them as possible.
Well, I think you've done that. What about any reports of violations or people screwing up, or probably you've gotten reports of people hunting on places they shouldn't be hunting? I mean, you always get some of that, right?
Oh, we always get some of that, and our natural resources police officers do a tremendous job in the state, getting out there and enforcing the laws and taking complaints and doing the best they can to get to all those complaints and enforcing the law. All
right, Chris Ryan, DNR Supervisor of Game Management. Chris, good to have you on. Thank you very much. Enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday.
Thank you. You too, Halpy.
All right, man. Take care. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
This Saturday, the West Virginia Mountaineers return home for a Big 12 matchup with the Iowa State Cyclones. Join Metro News for the best, most listened to game day coverage. The pregame fun starts at 9 a.m. with the Jeep Golden Blue Countdown, followed by the Sports Brunch. Game line kicks off at high noon. Then postgame analysis begins at 3 with the Golden Blue Wrap-Up, brought to you by the West Virginia Oil and Natural Gas Association. Don't miss game day coverage at its best, beginning Saturday morning at 9, right here on Metro News.
The event you've been waiting for is here. The Northside Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Truck Black Friday Blockbuster Sales Event. Northside's pulling out all the stops with huge incentives and ultra-low percentage rates. Buy any 2015 Ram 1500 truck and get 0% financing for 75 months and up to $4,000 in rebates. Yes, I said $4,000 in rebates. Heard in Northside Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Trucks, your central West Virginia destination for savings, or visit on the web at northsidewv.com.
Trading in your business fleet or personal vehicle for a new one? Donate your used vehicle to Good News Mountaineer Garage and get the best tax deduction possible and the satisfaction of knowing your donation changed the life of someone in need. Good News Mountaineer Garage repairs donated vehicles and provides them to qualified West Virginia families, giving them access to employment, safe, affordable housing, health care, and other vital necessities, and putting them on the road to economic independence. Call 1-866-GIVE-CAR today for Good News Mountaineer Garage. 866-GIVE-CAR.
You're listening to Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest, because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank member FDIC. We will be watching, already are watching very closely in 2016 the state Senate races because there are now 18 of them, and the Senate is 18-16 Republican, very close, and it hangs in the balance. And one of the races we'll be watching is West Virginia 11, the 11th district, and that's a big district, Randolph, Pendleton, part of Grant, Upshur, Webster, Pocahontas, Nicholas. Right now, the senator who's up for re-election is Greg Boso, B-O-S-O, Greg Boso. But we have word that a Democrat is about to get in that race. Delegate Denise Campbell is a Democrat from Randolph County. Member of the House of Delegates joins us on Talkline this morning. Denise, good morning. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Thanks for coming on.
Good morning, Hoppy, and happy Thanksgiving to you.
Thank you. I understand you've made a decision about your plans in 2016. What are they?
My plans are I am going to run for the 11th senatorial district.
And why are you doing that?
Well, the reason why I'm doing it is the reason why I have been involved in the House of Delegates, is that I want to make a difference, and I want that difference to be positive for West Virginia. And I want to be the advocate for the individuals in West Virginia who feel like they don't have a voice and that people are not listening to them. And I just feel that this will give me even a broader opportunity to advocate for the citizens of West Virginia and to make a bigger difference.
Democratic Delegate Denise Campbell's with us from Randolph County announcing she's running for the Democratic nomination for State Senate in the 11th. Denise, you and I have talked before, and you've gone back and forth on this, and it's a big commitment. So what finally caused you to reach your decision, and why now that you are, in fact, going to run?
Well, Hoppy, as you mentioned, you and I had talked back in the summer, and I have been thinking about that for quite some time and have really, made my list of pros and cons. And the pros for West Virginia, I think, are in my favor, that I can make a difference, that I have a good relationship with the district that they represent right now. And it really, other than, going through the campaign, that's always not a pleasant thing. That's the only probably negative part, is that, sometimes campaigns turn negative, and that's not something that I like to do or have done in the past. And I hope that's not something that's going to happen this time. But I just really feel that I've got the compassion and I've got the passion and the drive to make a difference in West Virginia. We have huge challenges. We're falling behind as a state. We know we have got to connect to broadband, and we need to really focus on services for mental health and substance abuse. Those are some of the core issues that if we don't attack those and come up with some solutions, it's going to be very hard for us to get our state to move forward.
Denise, this is a huge district. This is one of those rural districts, Randolph, Pendleton, part of Grant, Upshur, Webster, Pocahontas, Nicholas. It would be hard to get from one end of the district to the other in half a day. So I'm sure you've thought about that. How are you going to physically campaign in all those places?
Well, I've got a team of people that have come to me, and that's another reason why my decision, I've had more people from various walks of life that have really encouraged me and really have wanted me to do this. And I've actually drove the whole district in the last month and have timed the distance from where I live to the corner of every one of those. And you know what? It's not as bad as it seems, because where I'm located in Randolph County, it's a pretty good location for this 11th senatorial district.
So you can get from here to there, right?
I can get from here to there, that's for sure. And covering Randolph and Pocahontas County, which are the two largest geographic counties already, so I'm used to a lot of travel, and I don't mind that. And, I've lived in rural West Virginia for most of my life, and I want to represent the people of rural West Virginia. I want to be sure that I can do everything I can to make our state a better place for West Virginians to live and to keep our children at home, try to get children out of poverty, and work on the issues. That's what we need to do. We need to focus on the issues and come up with some positive solutions, and we all need to work together. On
the issues, what would be your number one issue? Obviously, you've already talked with people in the district because you're a member of the House of Delegates. What, in your opinion, is the number one issue facing this state?
Well, I think the number one issue has to do with the position that our budget is in. That, you know, if we all know it takes money to make things happen, and I think that's an area that, you know, we really need to focus on. What can we do to make an impact so that we're able to do the things that we need to do in West Virginia, which of course we need jobs. And we need people that are out there working so that people can actually be paying, you know, their taxes if they have a job. But I really think in order for big businesses, or even, you know, West Virginia is made up of small businesses, and we need to support our small businesses. And, you know, being able to connect to the world through broadband is a huge issue that I think really, really needs attention. And I know I've mentioned that, but the substance abuse, if we do not have a prepared workforce, it's going to be hard for businesses to come in if we don't have individuals that are able to have the skills or be able to pass a drug test. So, you know, we've got to strengthen our workforce, and we really have to be sure that we have the technology in place so that we can support these businesses so that we can get our state to move forward.
Denise Campbell, Democratic delegate from Randolph County, announcing today she's seeking the Democratic nomination for state Senate in the 11th District. That's the district that covers Randolph, Pendleton, part of Grant, Upshur, Webster, Pocahontas, Nicholas, and the seat now held by Republican Greg Basso. Denise, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. We'll be talking to you again soon. That's one of the races we'll certainly be following. So thank you very much, and have a blessed Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much, Hoppy, and Thanksgiving to everyone.
Thank you very much. All right, so some of these races coming together. The Senate, I think, will be fascinating. I mean, just the other day, we had the announcement on this program from Senator Bill Laird from the 10th that he's not running for re-election. Immediately, Dave Perry, Democrat, got in that race, and Thomas Ewing, a Republican's in there, so that's an open seat. But you have, and because of the situation, we now have 17 Senate races. I'm sorry, 18. There are going to be 18 Senate races in 2016, and right now the Republicans have an 18-16 advantage over the Democrats in the state Senate. So watch that closely. Email from Scotty Hoppy. Email from Scott Hoppy. I'm the most non-racist guy there is. However, why are we not hearing about the 2 black cops that killed the child in Louisiana is my question. It's obvious the black community feels they are better. Martin Luther King Jr. had the right idea. Too bad Malcolm X, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton have ruined a great thing. You have to be careful in making decisions about cases and just watching the video. However, the video in the Chicago case is pretty damaging from the looks of it. Yes, the individual had a knife, a 3-inch pocket knife, and the officer may have felt threatened, but there was still a pretty significant distance between the officer who fired and the individual. So, and the officer has been charged. Now, the community is saying, well, it took a long time for the video to be released, for the charges to be brought, but the officer has been charged in that case. Speaking of which, let me make an awkward transition. There was a shooting overnight by a Nitro police officer of an individual as a result of an attempted traffic stop. We'll talk about that next hour. This is Talkline on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia. Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Talkline on the Metro News Radio Network. In and around the great state, Hoppy Kercheval with you. J.R. Falls, our producer. Matt Sunday handling the video stream. 1-800-765-8255. Email me, talkline@wvmetronews.com. Tweet me at Hoppy Kercheval. Text me 304-TALK-304. Overnight, a Nitro police officer shot and wounded an individual following a traffic stop. We'll find out what happened there coming up in just a little bit. But let's get back to the Don Blankenship trial. Shauna Johnson and Jeff Jenkins have been at that trial every day since it began, listening to all the testimony. They're waiting like everybody else for the jury to reach a decision. Of course, the jury has adjourned for the holiday weekend. They'll be back Monday, and both join us in our Charleston studio. Shauna, Jeff, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming on. Now, there have been a lot of family members and relatives who've been there, Shauna, and some of them have spoken to the press. What have they said?
They've said they're continuing to wait. They're not going home. They're going to be here until this jury comes back, whenever it is. This jury crossed the 1-week mark Tuesday afternoon in terms of deliberations. 5 full days, about 27 hours total. And these family members have said they want to see justice done.
All right. Can you give me some comments from some of those who've been there?
Sure, Jeff has those.
Yeah,
All
I've got them, Hoppy, right here.
Okay.
And this is Sherry Witt, right? Shauna
Sherry Witt, and her
up.
brother is Boone Payne. He was one of the 29 coal miners killed in the Upper Big Branch mine disaster in April 2010.
Okay, let's hear from Sherry. And this was after trial.
Shirley
yesterday.
Witt.
Yeah, Shirley Witt.
Shirley Witt.
Yeah,
her
I'm
brother
sorry.
died at
Sorry
UVB.
about that. Yes, Shirley Witt, and we're waiting.
All right.
I'm sorry.
All right. We're gonna.
Shirley has been there with her sister Sherry, and then also Dr. Judy Jones Peterson. Her brother Dean Jones was killed at UVB.
Okay,
Go ahead.
here she is.
Absolutely. And I don't think it's unrealistic to think, after what these jurors were put through for the last 5.5 weeks, to think that 5 days is unrealistic time for them to come back with a verdict. If it takes 20 days, we will be here.
And that's kind of their resolve there, Hoppy. And they talked yesterday, and both of the sisters talked to the media afterward, and that's what they talked about. And they said they understood that they mentioned, Shauna, a lot of the evidence. There's so much to go through, and they're just hoping that they go through it. Of course, no one really knows what they're doing.
No one knows what's happening in that jury room. We have no idea. We can tell you exactly when they're going to take their breaks. So can the family members. We can tell you that this jury arrives on time and seems to work hard. We can tell you when they look tired. We've been watching these people for more than 30 days now.
Of course.
And there have been days, when they come in at the end of the day, they look beat.
Yeah.
And Hoppy, it was interesting yesterday, and Shauna and I were in the courtroom at the end of the day when the judge came in, and something happened also yesterday that we don't really know what. All the defense attorneys come up, and anytime that elevator opens and you see the defense attorneys or the prosecutors get off, all the media just kind of stands up because you're kind of hoping
something's happening.
Yeah, you're kind of hoping to get in the
So
courtroom.
at about 4:10, there's 6 main Blankenship attorneys. Those attorneys come off the elevator along with Don Blankenship, and they go into the courtroom. We're not allowed in there. And then the assistant U.S. attorney, Steve Ruby, is seen, and he doesn't go into the courtroom. He goes around back to judges' chambers. There was some kind of meeting in the judges' chambers with the lead attorneys and U.S. District Judge Irene Berger. Whatever happened there is apparently under seal. We don't know what they were discussing there. They came back before 5 into the courtroom, brought in the jury, sent them home for the day. And then, of course, we had another motion from Bill Taylor, the lead defense attorney for Don Blankenship, another motion for a mistrial, which was denied again.
Right.
Yeah. And she said, and I thought her comments were interesting.
Judge Berger?
Yeah, what the judge said yesterday, she just said, and Hoppy, you brought this up with Harvey. We haven't heard anything from him, she said. So she calls, and this is a couple of times she's called the jury stellar, and she thinks they're working on it. And she said, kind of tongue in cheek, and you have to know her. I mean, she'll drop some one-liners every once in a while. She says, "I was thinking in my bed this morning as I stared at the ceiling that this might just be payback."
Payback.
Well, if you think about 5 days,
Yeah.
if you think
Yeah.
about 5
Yeah.
days of deliberations compared to more than 5 weeks of testimony, I think that was her point.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me more about the family members or the relatives. How many are there generally, Shauna, on a daily basis? What is their demeanor throughout the trial and during breaks? What else can you tell me about those who are there?
I would say those who have been there every day, and Jeff, tell me if I'm wrong, there's a core group of about 5 who've been there from the beginning. And you have Shirley Witt, you have Sherry Keeney DuPoy, their brother Boone Payne, you have Dr. Judy Jones Peterson and her brother Dean Jones, who was killed, and then also the Quarles family. They had a son who was killed at UBB. And then throughout this trial, you've also seen some regulars and then people who maybe just dropped in for a day or two. They're not demonstrative. They're not breaking down. There was that one moment during testimony from Bill Ross, the former MSHA official who went to work at Massey, where there were tears in the gallery. But overall, Jeff, it's not a hugely emotional thing. They just want to be present. They sit there in the front row. They're there early. They stay until the end. Yeah. And they've continued to do that through jury deliberations. They do not leave those benches on the 5th floor of the Charleston Federal Courthouse until the jury goes out for their breaks or for lunch.
They know. I mean, clearly, and the jury's not told this, but everybody kind of knows everybody by the end of a trial, and clearly jurors know that sitting in the front row this entire time are family members of UBB victims, right?
Right.
I mean, they got to know that.
And Hoppy, and I was thinking about this yesterday, is that, during the UBB, that week, that just emotional week of UBB, because it took, a week to find everybody and those type of things. Those families of the UBB victims and probably some of these folks that we see were sequestered and were at the UBB offices being taken care of by Massey. And Don Blankenship dropping in there. You know what I'm saying? So, spending some time with the families at that time. And now you have it, you've gone all the way through this thing. I mean, it's just and now you're at a trial, and what emotions those have been. And, I think from the family's perspective, I've heard them say this, that if the jury ends up hanging on a couple of charges, but there's one conviction, I think they'd be okay with that.
What did Judy Jones Peterson say?
She's talked several times here during the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
She says she trusts that this jury will come back with the right decision, and for her, the right decision is a conviction.
Yeah. And Hoppy, she was actually talking to another family member of a victim. I think this lady's brother got killed, and she's been there a couple of times. And she was there yesterday, hoping that the verdict would come back. But Dr. Peterson was kind of counseling her a little bit, or speaking with her about what should be expected and what she really thought maybe justice is in this case.
We were talking about that last hour with Harvey, and again, there is justice as in the proper execution of the law and the rule of law, and then there is the perception by those who lost family members of UBB or others of what justice is. So there's got to be some disconnect there, and I don't know if there's going to be any reconciliation when the jury comes back.
Let's hear from Shirley Witt here, Harvey.
Right.
She was asked yesterday, does she have faith that the jury would do the right thing?
Yeah, I do. I wonder about them sometimes, what they're thinking. But yeah, I have faith. I think they'll come to a guilty verdict.
That's Sherry Keeney DuPoy.
Yeah,
we're getting the sisters confused and not doing right by them, I don't think.
Right. They were out there together.
But it's interesting, though, that again, that there's a family member who says the jury will do the right thing. I have faith in them. Mm-hmm. But the expectation is that they're going to convict him, not that they'll reach an impart, that they're going to convict him.
Yeah.
So
and this is an interesting cut too. Listen to this.
It is a complex matter. I think with all those indictments, if you go through each one of them, there's a lot of material they probably are going through to determine indictment 1, indictment 2, indictment 3. And we're talking about a man's life here. You got to take it serious. 30 years is a long time when you're 65 years old.
Now that's kind of interesting.
That is.
She's talking there about Blankenship, and and she says serious, and she thinks that they're treating it serious because of that.
Yeah.
And that was Shirley Witt. And if you look at these charges, Hoppy, and I'm sure you've talked about it, I haven't been able to hear your show because for the past however many weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, I've been sitting in the courtroom at this time.
Right.
But that first charge can get complicated if you look at it. There are 2 parts of that charge.
Right.
The conspiracy is one of it, and then the second part's defrauding the federal government. And if they find Blankenship guilty of either one of those, he's guilty on count 1. And then when you go to count 2 and count 3, then you get into securities fraud, lying to shareholders, and that can be difficult for people who don't work in that and deal with that every day.
Yeah, my take is, Hop, that if you try to kind of draw, it's all speculative, obviously.
Yes, we're speculating.
But yeah, we are. But since the last question we had from them,
which was Friday,
which was last Friday, about the
strive and condone,
condone and strive, which is parts of counts 2 and 3, and I think maybe you've said this, Hoppy. Does that mean they've decided on the conspiracy charge?
Or does it mean they couldn't get an agreement on the conspiracy charge and they just set it aside and went to count 2 and 3 and they're like, okay, let's try this.
Let's try 2 and 3.
Or could it mean that they want to convict him of something? Okay, I think that's at play here. I mean, the fact that it's gone on this long is there are members of the jury, because if he was going to be acquitted, I think it would have been I think it sounds to me like that they want to try to convict him of something in connection with UBB. And
maybe that's what the defense is worrying about, is Bill Taylor has now 3 times, had a motion for a mistrial.
Right.
And Judge Berger continues to die. I mean, you look at these defense attorneys and and the jury and the family members. I mean, there's all just the facial expressions just tell it all.
Oh, sure.
I mean, when Bill Taylor walked up yesterday, the lead attorney for the defense, and when he came off the elevator, I said, "Is there a verdict?" He said, "No." I said, "Is there a note?" He said, "No."
Yeah, they're just worn down.
And then he had that meeting with the judge, whatever that was about.
All right. Well, we'll continue to follow closely. Shauna Johnson, Jeff Jenkins, been there every day. They'll be back there Monday. Thank you both.
Yes, we will.
We'll be continuing to loiter at the Charleston Federal Courthouse.
What Harvey called yesterday a somewhat sterile environment. I think he called it with the hard benches.
Well, you're waiting for the verdict. I mean, you wait. See what happens.
That's right.
Covering the story. You're there. WVMetroNews.com.
Yep.
Shauna Johnson, Jeff Jenkins, thank you very much. Happy Thanksgiving. When we come back, to you both, Lise Wheel, Fox News Legal.
'Tis
analyst.
the season to start saving. At MVB Bank, it's easy with our new 12-month CD. Start earning 1.15% annual percentage yield with a minimum deposit of just $1,000. To start your CD savings today, visit our jolly team at any MVB location or call us at 844-MVB Bank. It's sure to keep you off the naughty list next year. MVB Bank. Your financial life made easy. Member FDIC.
True to its motto, wild and wonderful, West Virginia is the 3rd most forested state in the country for landmass and has 7 million more forested acres now than 100 years ago. The mountain state is abundantly blessed with valuable renewable forest resources, which naturally regenerate for future generations. Forestry is the basis for over 5,000 separate wood and paper products, creating millions of dollars in state revenue from business income and property taxes. A message from the West Virginia Forestry Association, WVFA.org.
This is Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest, because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Fox News legal analyst Lise Wheel joins us for a couple quick minutes. Welcome back on Talkline. Lise, good to talk to you. How are you? And happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
So let's go to 3 quick topics. 1, a senior judge in Minnesota has been reprimanded for posting on Facebook information about trials he was overseeing. What was the judge doing? Why was he doing it? And how much trouble did he get into?
Got into a lot of trouble, got reprimanded. He was a senior judge, been on the bench for 32 years plus. And I think he just didn't realize that when he's on Facebook, he thought he was just talking to friends, close friends and family about cases that he was overseeing, which he shouldn't have been talking to anyone about. But he just thought it was, that. So he shouldn't have been talking to anyone, but he thought it was just a few people. And, of course, Facebook, as we know, is never just a few people. No. And the post went to the family and friends, and that's what got him in trouble.
Well, how much trouble is he in?
Well, he just got reprimanded. He's not going to lose his, ability to be a judge, but you can't be doing that. I mean, if you're here, you can't be talking about cases before you. If you're a juror, you can't be talking about cases that you're on. You can't be doing that, especially on Facebook. It's just one more example of where Facebook and social media can get you in trouble.
Yeah. Fox News legal analyst Lise Wheel. Let's go to the second topic. And I talked about this earlier this week. University of Ottawa in Canada has canceled exclusive and insensitive yoga classes. Now, these have been free yoga classes, I think, been going on for 7 years. And I got a note. Well, and I didn't even understand the objection, quite frankly. I read it, and I do not know what it meant, but they canceled the classes. What's this about?
It's like culturally inappropriate because yoga is taken from the Hindu tradition, and it's been so westernized and kind of commercialized, and so you're not really appreciating the tradition. Now, I will tell you, in the research, I found out, do you people pay $120 for yoga pants? I never knew that. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, so they're saying they're kind of swishing in there with their yoga pants and their Starbucks and their bottle of water and stuff, and that's not appreciative of the Hindu tradition. But then I think, okay, no karate classes, no flamenco dances. I'm from the West, so when I grew up, we had square dancing. Square dancing. I mean,
no anything.
I don't know.
No, we've been talking about this a lot, Lise, and I know that some of it is generational. I'm a little older, and I'm older than you, but it seems absurd. It seems patently absurd, some of these things that are going on. I'm not dismissing some legitimate complaints about bigotry and racism.
Right. But it's a yoga class, and anything that helps people go in there and relax and stretch their muscles with their $120 pants. I mean, great.
All right, Lise. How about Ahmed Mohammed? He's the clock kid, the teenager who was arrested originally for bringing the homemade clock to school, and it's been a cause celeb ever since. Now his family has filed a defamation suit?
Saying yes, that he wants $15 million because he's been damaged by what happened to him. He's never going to get his reputation back, his Fourth Amendment rights, all of this. Look, the school was right to bring this kid out and interrogate him. Where the school messed up legally is that when he asked for to speak to his parents, they said no. That's illegal under Texas law, under most state laws. So they will have to pay something because of that, but it's not going to be $15 million.
Has he been, in your opinion, defamed?
He certainly will be known as that kid, for a while at least. But he went to the White House and he got scholarships. Now he's going to get money from the settlement. I mean,
I think it'd be hard.
He did do something pretty stupid. Let's face it.
Yeah, I think it'd be hard. I think you're right. I mean, I'm not an attorney. I think you're right that the school could have handled that differently. But I think it's going to be tough to argue defamation when you can come back and say that. Well, didn't you go to the White House with the president? Didn't you get? Didn't you get? Weren't you on the Tonight Show? Whatever it all was.
Exactly.
I got just 60 seconds with. I want to ask you something. And again, I always throw you the curveball. We have a case going on, the Don Blankenship trial. He's charged in connection with federal mine safety violations. It's a high-profile case. The jury has now been out for over 30 hours trying to decide 3 counts. The judge has sent them home for the long holiday weekend. They'll be back Monday. If you were the prosecutor or the defense, how concerned would you be about sending a jury home for 5 days, not deliberating today, 5 days over the Thanksgiving holiday, that they're going to sit at the table and Uncle Joe's going to say, I can't believe you haven't convicted him, or you got to let that guy go? How concerned would you be about that?
I would be concerned on both sides. First of all, from the prosecution point of view, it makes you nervous when the jury is out for a long time, because the more time, you want it just to be like, boom, 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 we got it. That's always the best. I had jury verdicts come back in 20 minutes sometimes. So you worry when it's long. You also worry, when they're sent home, even though they're not supposed to talk.
Right.
Just like the judge, everybody, they're human beings. Somebody's going to bring it up. And maybe, the jurors will say, no, I can't talk about it. Or maybe even if they don't talk about it, they may listen to other people around them talking about it.
Yeah, that's
problematic.
That's a concern. They might say, I can't talk about that. And then
but you can't keep other people from talking about it.
For some reason, I still have this image of, the crazy old uncle that says, well, I know you can't talk about it, but I'll tell you what I think.
I can tell you a thing or two.
You're exactly right. Lisa Wheel, Fox News legal analyst. Thanks, and happy holidays.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Very good. Thank you very much. Bill, welcome to Talkline. Thanks for waiting. What do you got, Bill?
Hello.
Oops, I just cut him off. My apologies, Bill. I apologize. I was trying to do three things at once, and that's what happened. This reminder from MetroNews Talkline. Here in West Virginia, there are two great jackpot games you can play from the West Virginia Lottery. Powerball has drawings on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Mega Millions has drawings on Tuesdays and Fridays. The Powerball jackpot is $90 million. The Mega Millions jackpot is $31 million. Please play responsibly. Let's see. Well, the email I got earlier was about that shooting in Chicago. And I'll just say this. I understand that you need, when you're contemplating what took place, you need to have all the information. You need to know what happened beforehand and at the time. And I get that. I'm just saying the video looks very bad. That's what I'm saying. The video looks very bad. And I tell you, the case, the situation there is not too much unlike what happened in Martinsburg, where the police shot and killed the homeless guy who was acting somewhat irrationally and walking down the street and had a pocket knife. It's not all that much. There are some similarities there. All these cases are different, but there are some similarities. Bill, I cut you off earlier. I apologize. Thanks for calling back. What do you want to say about the Blankenship trial?
I don't know what happened. You know who I am, and I got history in the coal business, and I was a foreman on the jury in a murder trial. In of where these jurors are, regardless of what Harvey Payton says about the secrecy of how they picked them, the people in the community or the relatives know who the jurors are.
So you think what? What do you think the jury's struggling with?
I think they're struggling with how are we going to get some verdict out and then look ourselves in the mirror 2 or 3 months from now and say we did as best we could do about whatever we decided we can do. And every one of those 12 people, including the jury foreman who has to bring the results back to the judge, is going to have to do that.
Yeah, I tell you, I got to hit the hard break. I got a lot of sympathy for the jurors, really. That's your civic duty. It's your civic responsibility. This is an emotional, high-profile case. West Virginia is a small state. We're not going to publicize them, but they're going to go back home. Everybody's going to know who they are. Not an easy task for those folks. We'll be back. This is Talkline on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia. 11:30, let's get a news update. Check in with the Metro News Radio Network. Find out what's happening statewide this hour, all across the great state of West Virginia.
West Virginia Metro News, I'm Shauna Johnson. A former standout West Virginia University wide receiver is said to be in critical but stable condition today at a Miami, Florida hospital. Stedman Bailey, who now plays for the NFL's St. Louis Rams, was shot twice in the head Tuesday night while in a vehicle. His cousin was also shot multiple times. In Kanawha County, the investigation into the shooting that involved a police officer early this morning continues this hour. Sheriff's Department spokesperson Sergeant Brian Humphrey says a Nitro police officer shot a suspect multiple times when that man tried to run over him during a traffic stop.
The officer said he was in fear for his life when he took the action.
Humphreys talked with Metro News earlier today. West Virginia welcomes the message of a rally in downtown Charleston. Charleston City Council member Mary Beth Hoover was part of that Tuesday rally, a show of support for refugees from war-torn nations like Syria looking to resettle here. Hoover says such refugees do have to go through a lengthy security process.
I absolutely think national security is of utmost importance. But I mean, there is a vetting process in place. It's easy to investigate what that process is. And we have lawmakers acting as if it's just random and arbitrary when it's not.
See more from that rally at WVMetroNews.com. You're listening to Metro News for 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
There are things that make our lives easier.
You know, locking shoelaces, pizza scissors, remote control mops, one-hand bottle cap openers, and the Know Before You Go driving app.
It's free travel information on West Virginia highways, traffic congestion, work zones, road conditions, information that can make your travel easier. Log on to WV511.org or download the WV511 Drive Safe app.
Know Before You Go. It'll make your life easier.
A study from England shows that men spend more time each day looking at themselves than women. Well, believe that study or not, the point is we all want to look our best all the time. Well, the same holds true for businesses. We judge businesses, in fact, by their look. At Pikewood Creative, we produce videos and commercials that make businesses look their very best. And you know what? It improves their business. They get more customers and clients. If you'd like your business to look better, then check us out at pikewoodcreative.com.
It could be early next week, maybe later, before the first skiing and snowboarding of the season gets started in West Virginia. Joe Stevens, spokesperson for the West Virginia Ski Areas Association, says preps are underway.
When the temperatures dropped below freezing earlier this week, the snowmakers were able to start making snow and preparing for the season.
Traffic is picking up on West Virginia's highways on this day before Thanksgiving. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Shauna Johnson.
Talkline presented by MBB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. A South Charleston man was shot by a Nitro police officer early Wednesday morning after he allegedly tried to run over the officer. Mike Rutherford is the chief deputy of the Kanawha County Sheriff's Department. They're investigating this. Mike, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, Hoppy. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for coming on. What happened here?
Well, of course, obviously it's under investigation.
Sure.
We received a call about 1 minute after 1 a.m. this morning that a Nitro officer had attempted to stop a vehicle for a headlight violation, and the vehicle fled a short distance, turned around, and the officer was ordering the individual to show his hands and get out of the vehicle. And then shortly after that, the shooting occurred. So like I say, it's still under investigation. We still have a lot of information that we need to gather, and we're working very closely with the prosecutor's office here in Kanawha County. As a matter of fact, the one of the head assistant prosecutors was at the scene with us this morning. So we're going over all the evidence. We did have one female that was in the vehicle that was uninjured, and she was charged with having simple possession of drugs on her and lodged in the South Central Regional Jail.
Was she, so she was the one who was, she was the only person in the car?
No. She was a passenger in the car. The male that was driving was the one that was injured. His name is Mickey Davis of South Charleston, 28 years old.
Mickey Davis, South Charleston, 28. Yes, and what were the nature of, how many times was he hit, and what is his condition? Do you know, Mike?
Well, the doctors were still checking him over. We know at least 3 entry points for the bullets. They were checking to see if there was a 4th one. However, we do know for sure that there was 3 at this time. He is currently in the intensive care unit at CAMC General, but he is expected to survive.
Mike Rutherford's with us, Chief Deputy of the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office, on this shooting early Wednesday morning. Mike, do you have a better understanding? You all were at the scene. Do you have a better understanding of exactly the logistics here? The sheriff's deputy, the police officer, Nitro police officer, stops the car. They got a headlight that's out, but then the vehicle does what? Pulls away and then comes back around and goes. What happens? Can you be more specific about that? Do you know?
Yes, sir. My understanding is that where this occurred is kind of a remote area in the area there. There's a housing apartment complex right there. Apparently, the individual fled when the officer attempted to stop him, but it was only for a short distance. And he apparently turned around and came back towards the officer and was facing the opposite direction from the officer in his patrol car. The officer did exit his vehicle and order him out of the car, and that's pretty much what we're looking at right now. like I say, there's a lot of things we need to do. We're canvassing the area for any potential witnesses and that type of thing.
Was the individual in the car, Mickey, you said his name again, was his last name? Mickey
Davis.
Mickey Davis. Was Davis or the other individual, was either of them armed? Were there any weapons in the vehicle?
No, sir, not to my knowledge.
Okay. Is your investigation so far, have you concluded whether or not the nitro officer acted appropriately?
Well, that's what the investigation is. It's going to take some time, obviously, to do that. It appears the individual did come towards him in his vehicle, and the officer indicates that he was in fear for his life for the car coming towards him, and that's why he resorted to the situation that occurred there.
Mike, what are the challenges? You're a veteran law enforcement guy. What are the challenges that occur for officers as they are in that situation? You stop somebody and then you don't know what's going to happen, and you do have the ability to use lethal force if you fear for your life. What is that? What is that gray area? I mean, how do you know when to react with deadly force and when not to?
Hoppy, that's an excellent question. I mean, and that's why these investigations take some time to do, because, it's really difficult for you or me or anybody that wasn't there to really know what's going through the mind of the officer, because, when you have a, potentially a 4,000-pound vehicle coming at you, it's pretty intimidating. I mean, you can be seriously injured or killed very quickly. And but that's why we do the independent investigation, to determine what did happen and see what we can do to unravel all the pieces to it.
Mike, is there dash cam video? Do you know?
I don't believe there was dash cam video. No.
Okay. All right, Mike Rutherford, Chief Deputy of Kanawha County Sheriff's Office. Mike, thanks for coming on with additional insights, and I hope you have a good and safe Thanksgiving.
You too, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take a break and come back. More on Talkline coming up here in just a moment. The Marion County Historical Society opens their doors for the Holiday Historic Home Tour starting on the 28th. Many of the homes will be decorated for the holidays and have live music and refreshments. Homes on the tour include a lot of historic homes, former Marion County Sheriff's Home, and others dating back to the 1840s. For more information, go to WV.com. Go to WV.com. That's the website. GOTOWV.com. Or call 800-225-5982. 800-225-5982. The Marion County Historical Society Historic Homes Holiday Tour starts the 28th. Check it out. Go to WV.com.
This Saturday, the West Virginia Mountaineers return home for a Big 12 matchup with the Iowa State Cyclones. Join MetroNews for the best, most listened to game day coverage. The pregame fun starts at 9 a.m. with the Jeep Golden Blue Countdown, followed by the Sports Brunch. Game line kicks off at high noon. Then postgame analysis begins at 3 with the Golden Blue Wrap-Up, brought to you by the West Virginia Oil and Natural Gas Association. Don't miss game day coverage at its best, beginning Saturday morning at 9, right here on MetroNews.
Hello, I'm your neighbor.
Your sister.
Your son.
Your granddaughter.
I was broken, hungry,
helpless and hopeless.
Catholic Charities reached out to me in hope, faith, and love.
They were there in my time of need, and they'll be there for you.
No matter how old or young you are, Catholic Charities of West Virginia offers hope, help, and love for all ages. Visit CatholicCharitiesWV.org and find your hope today. Catholic Charities West Virginia is an equal opportunity employer and service provider.
Is your business or organization struggling when it comes time to tell your story? After all, your story is what makes you unique. Your story is what makes potential clients and customers draw themselves to you. Unfortunately, oftentimes, those stories aren't told and businesses and organizations remain mired in mediocrity. At Pikewood Creative, we produce videos and commercials in a way that make people take notice. If you need some visual help, then visit us at pikewoodcreative.com.
You're listening to Talkline on MetroNews. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Gosh, cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, You are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC, 1-800-765-8255. Email talkline at wvmetronews.com. Tweet me at Hoppy Kercheval. Text me 304-TALK 304. I'll get back to the phones in a moment. Time of year where we think a little bit more than usual about charitable giving. But there are numbers in concerning our charitable giving in West Virginia, and they're down a little bit. Paul Doherty is president and CEO of Philanthropy West Virginia, joins us on Metro News Talkline. Paul, good morning and happy Thanksgiving to you.
Good morning, Happy Thanksgiving to you as well.
Thank you very much. What do your numbers show?
Well, we're seeing a continued decrease in the past several years since the Great Recession of 2009-2010. We have still not recovered from the figures. The height of itemized charitable giving by West Virginia citizens was around $515 million in 2010. And then the report that we have out today, this week that we've issued, is that we've seen a decline, and we're down to in the area of $471 million. And so we're still dealing with not recovering from the Great Recession, and we know it's an economic impact, and so it hurts those vital organizations that serve our communities across the Mountain State.
Yeah, in what ways is the downward trend in giving? Is it just across the board? You don't know which charities are getting less or which are getting more, right?
We don't know. I mean, we can hear anecdotally from the conversations we have with different nonprofits in the state, but I mean, it's across the sector issue we're seeing in many different organizations.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the specific findings in your State of Philanthropy report that we can talk about?
Well, I think the one key thing is surprising is that a lot of times we talked about charitable giving being something that's more for the wealthy, but in West Virginia, all income levels give generously. And so from that perspective, we see individuals in the low and middle income class giving at percentages per capita that are higher than the national average. And then the higher income individuals are giving at a broad stroke as well, but not as about on par with the national average. So it's surprising to see that we kind of break the national trends. It's a very positive thing to see as the middle and low income class is giving.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said the other thing I'll mention is collectively, even though that we see these challenges with the economy and still recovering, right now, since 2005, West Virginia has collectively contributed nearly $4.2 billion to the nonprofit sector. That speaks highly, especially this time of year, of being thankful for what West Virginians do. And there's a lot of potential for growing that in the years to come.
Well, I think that these are general observations. I think West Virginians, generally speaking, are generous. We're not a wealthy state, but also it's a religious state. You don't have to be religious to be charitable, but there's a lot of tithing that goes on, so you have a lot of that
Correct.
that goes on. So that all adds up. But I don't know. But if you have a long period, Paul, of a downward trend, or now we have this situation with the coal industry and natural gas to slow down, these kinds of things, and people stop and they evaluate their budget. That's a natural instinct. So
absolutely, it's got to take care of the family first. And even during these times, people are still thinking what to do. And of course, one thing that this data does not capture are those that don't itemize. And there's individuals out there that do give. And so that's information that we're working on with different groups such as Giving USA and the Chronicle and Philanthropy on obtaining that information to share at a later date.
Mm-hmm. Paul Doherty is with us, President and CEO of Philanthropy West Virginia. So do you want to make your pitch? West Virginians are listening.
Well, I think it's an important time right now to think about how to invest local, and especially with key public policy initiatives like the West Virginia Neighborhood Investment Program. Those things allow for people to give more to charities in West Virginia. And when you think about it locally, think about the opportunities, how to invest, not just in your annual giving, but in your long-term estate planning giving. That's the key part of programs like our Keep 5 Local campaign in West Virginia, because we're going to see a continued massive transfer of wealth, and it's an opportunity to do it right here, and there's plenty of great opportunities to transform our communities.
Paul Doherty, President and CEO of Philanthropy West Virginia. Paul, good to speak with you. Thank you very much, and best of holidays to you, sir.
Same to you, sir. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. 1-800-765-8255. Dino in Huntington on the trial, on the Blankenship trial. What can you add, Dino?
Hi, Hoppy. It's been a while since I've called.
Well, welcome aboard. Welcome back.
To me, to take so long to make a verdict is he's going to get off, and which tells me that he bought the jury. He's got money. To me, my personal opinion is he's a murderer. He deliberately let the minds work in incapable circumstances, and I think he's guilty. And then, speaking of the Mohammed thing...
How could he buy the jury? How could he buy the jury? How could he buy the jury?
Well, when I lived in Miami, my boss in Miami in a machine shop, he was caught with $30,000 of marked bills. He was told to go to the bathroom. And the guy next to him in the bathroom gave him a list of names and told him to memorize these names and eat this paper. So he memorized it.
Let me tell you something, Dino. This is by all accounts of people who've been there every day, this has been a reasonable and fair trial and a reasonable execution of justice. And what is problematic is when individuals who have no idea about this trial, you can have an opinion. I'm not challenging your opinion on whether you think he should go to jail or not go to jail. That's your opinion. But I really think it's a leap to say, for anybody to say, this is my opinion, he should go to jail, and then if he doesn't go to jail, well, the jury is bought off. That is an enormous leap, of which there is no evidence to support. And this has been, so far, a fair trial by all accounts. And, this is what we get a lot of times, is when whatever the jury comes back with, there's going to be, well, I knew he was going to get off because Cole owns West Virginia. Or I knew he was going to be convicted because Goodwin's running for governor, which I think is intellectually lazy, okay? I mean, at some point, you have to have some faith in how the rule of law works. And in this case, after UBB, after 29 miners died, within days, there was a federal investigation. There were numerous investigations, including a federal investigation into what happened. And enough evidence was accumulated to suggest the possibility that Don Blankenship had a hand in willfully violating safety rules and regulations at the mine and in willfully misleading investors in the Securities and Exchange Commission. Enough that when presented to a grand jury returned indictments. And the next thing is you have a trial, and you find 12 people from the community who take an oath that they will judge the evidence impartially. And that's what we count on. And then the state presents its evidence, federal government. The defense counters as it has done, and you put it in the hands of the jury. That's how it works. That's how it works. And I think it's an injustice to willfully say, whatever this verdict is, to willfully say, well, you know how it goes in West Virginia. Well, it's lazy. It's intellectually lazy, and it's unbecoming of how this process has occurred. I'll be back.
We're in the spirit of giving at MVB Bank this year, and our gift to you includes awesome CD products at great rates, like our 58-month 2.12 annual percentage yield CD. You can start saving today with a minimum deposit of just $1,000. Hurry in now and avoid the holiday rush. This is a present that keeps on earning year after year. MVB Bank, your financial life made easy. Member FDIC. Visit us at mvbbanking.com. Imagine a scale and you're trying to balance it. Too much on one side and it sinks, just like our state's economy. When jobs are centered on one or two industries, the balance is off, our economy sinks, and good-paying jobs disappear. West Virginia needs a variety of industries, including fossil fuels, small business, and high-tech jobs to bring balance. The High Technology Foundation works to bring those high-tech jobs here. Ask your legislator if they're helping the High Technology Foundation bring balance to our economy. From the West Virginia High Technology Foundation.
There are things that make our lives easier.
You know, locking shoelaces, pizza scissors, remote control mops, one-hand bottle cap openers, and the Know Before You Go driving app.
It's free travel information on West Virginia highways, traffic congestion, work zones, road conditions, information that can make your travel easier. Log on to WV511.org or download the WV511 Drive Safe app.
Know Before You Go. It'll make your life easier.
This is Talkline on MetroNews. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
There. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Talkline on MetroNews. Welcome back. 1-800-765-8255. George in Charleston. Hi, George. Welcome in.
Hey, George. Hey, Avi.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got a quick comment to make. I'm going to bust you on something that you said a few weeks ago live on the air, and I quote.
Okay.
You said, I've met Jim Justice. He's a remarkably unlikable guy. And no one has commented on that till now.
I don't recall saying that.
You did.
No, I don't recall saying that.
You did.
No, I'm just saying, I don't recall why would I, if I said anything, it would have been, I've met Jim Justice, he's a likable guy. I don't think I would say profoundly unlikable guy. I think, are you talking about Jim Justice or Don Blankenship?
Oh, I meant Blankenship.
Well, jeez.
I'm sorry. I meant Blankenship.
Blankenship is unlikable.
Okay, and I think that jury sitting there looking at him, probably in spite of the evidence, has that gut feeling about him just like you do.
They may.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that other name. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That's okay.
All right. No, okay. That's all right. That's all right. So, all right, they caught me off guard. All right. So, but I think that's one of the reasons why they didn't put Blankenship on the stand is he's not a very likable guy. He's cold. He is. He just is. He comes off as cold and calculating, and just he comes off as heartless. That's how he comes off. He comes off as heartless. I just don't think you want that guy on the stand.
I agree.
But
agree.
why do you think? Why do you think?
sorry.
No, that's all right. Why do you think the jury's taking so long, and what do you think is going to happen?
It's because of the number 29, like we don't know, and my opinion is they'll probably find him guilty of something.
Mm-hmm.
There's just too much of the community involved in his greed to just let this pass.
You can imagine any number of scenarios for the jury, but one of them is for people who've listened to that testimony to be looking literally at the instructions and saying, I don't know whether he actually conspired with others to violate safety rules and to mislead. I'm just not sure about that. And remember, a tie goes to the defendant, or reasonable doubt goes to the defendant. But also at the same time, acknowledging what we all acknowledge, that is, the elephant in the room is 29 people died at UBB. And saying to yourself, if you're a juror, well, I don't know if they got, but man, all those people died at UBB. And he was running the place. So shouldn't he have to pay for something? Yeah, but you can just imagine that debate going on. And when you think about it, it's not that unreasonable the jury's taking this long, because I come back to Harvey Payton and Jeff Jenkins and Shauna Johnson have been there every day. Every day. Harvey Payton's been there almost every day. And Payton objectively looking at this going, well, this thing could go. It is not a slam dunk. It just isn't. One way or another. It's not a slam dunk. So, enjoy your holiday. Best of show on Thursday. Friday, back live show on Friday. Saturday, our coverage of WVU and Iowa State begins at 9 in the morning. 9 hours of game day coverage for West Virginia and Iowa State. Thanks to J.R. Falls. Thanks to Matt Sunday. I'm Hoppy Kercheval. We appreciate it. Keep up with the news. We'll still be here through the holiday period at WVMetroNews.com. WVMetroNews.com. Have a safe and pleasant holiday. This is Talkline on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.